All right, let's jump right into this. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to unpack a seriously dense, completely chaotic set of source material, covering some incredibly rapid shifts in U.S. foreign policy. We're looking at a situation that literally spans from the Middle East, over to Europe, and stretches all the way to Cuba. When global events are moving at this kind of breakneck speed, it can be really tough to see the big picture, right? So we're going to break down the raw facts, isolate the key statements, and map out exactly what is happening without all the background noise. So here's our roadmap for today. First, the mixed signals on Iran. Second, the Strait and our allies. Third, bypassing Congress. And fourth, a brand new front opening up in Cuba. Okay, part one, mixed signals on Iran. We're starting right at the epicenter, and honestly, the whiplash here is real. On one hand, President Trump's official message to Congress stated that hostilities have been terminated. But then, literally at the same time, a senior Iranian military official warned on state media that renewed conflict is likely. They're warning that their armed forces are fully prepared for what they're calling new adventures or foolishness from the Americans. Specifically because they feel the U.S. has shown it just isn't committed to agreements or treaties. And what's absolutely crucial to understand here is that Trump's declaration that the war is over actually bypassed a legal deadline, one that requires congressional approval to even continue military action. And just to add to the confusion, the messaging from the U.S. shifted almost immediately. Just hours after sending that letter to Congress declaring the end of hostilities, President Trump turns around and suggests that the U.S. might actually be better off without a deal. As peace talks stalled out, he noted that while they have to make a deal, the U.S. might frankly be better off making a bad deal, or just walking away and not making one at all. I mean, listen to the stark either-or scenario the president presented directly to the global public, asking out loud whether the U.S. wants to blast the hell out of him and finish him forever, or try and make a deal, really highlights the incredibly volatile nature of these stalled peace talks. It's this extreme, massive ultimatum just being laid out right in the open. Moving on to part two, the Strait and the allies. So stepping away from the rhetoric for a second, let's look at the physical reality on the water. The immediate regional fallout here involves a full U.S. naval blockade that has kept the highly crucial Strait of Hormuz completely closed off. This is one of the most vital waterways in the entire world for global trade. So this geopolitical standoff is directly threatening global oil prices and everyday shipping lanes. It's a massive physical enforcement of all this tension. Now, to get the strait reopened, the Trump administration is urgently asking other nations to step up to the plate. They are attempting to build a brand new international coalition focused on two main goals: coordinating diplomatic efforts and enforcing sanctions. Basically, the U.S. really wants its allies to take an active role in managing this blockade and the broader regional strategy. But that call for backup has exposed some pretty deep fractures. President Trump has been repeatedly blasting NATO allies for not getting directly involved in the Iran conflict. And then, in a remarkably blunt pushback, the German chancellor publicly stated that the Americans clearly have no strategy and are being humiliated by Iranian negotiators. I mean, wow, that is an unprecedented assessment coming from a major European ally, and it really shows a significant rift in international diplomacy. And the immediate reaction to that criticism was massive. President Trump responded by ordering the Pentagon to withdraw 5,000 U.S. troops from Germany over the next 6 to 12 months. 5,000 troops. That represents a monumental shift in military posture in Europe, and it was directly triggered by the diplomatic fallout over the Middle East strategy. All right, part three, bypassing congressional approval. We need to look at the domestic legal maneuvers that are actually funding and facilitating all of these huge international actions. Because this executive maneuvering, it doesn't stop with military declarations. It extends deeply into financial and diplomatic actions, effectively sidelining Congress on multiple fronts. Get this number, $8.6 billion. That staggering figure represents fast-tracked arms sales from the State Department to partners in the Middle East. Moving that sheer volume of weaponry typically involves some incredibly rigorous congressional oversight, but that entire process was just completely circumvented. So how did they pull that off? Well, to push these arms sales through without congressional approval, the administration invoked emergency powers. And the wild part is, this isn't even a one-off tactic. The source material reveals this persistent pattern of relying on emergency powers to manage foreign military sales during this conflict. It's an authority they've already used to move billions of dollars more since the Iran war began. Which brings us to part 4, a new front in Cuba. In a completely startling pivot, President Trump introduced a whole new geographic focus. He announced that the U.S. intends to take over Cuba almost immediately after the war in Iran is over. Think about that. It's a dramatic escalation directed at a nation in an entirely different hemisphere, explicitly linking the conclusion of one conflict directly to the initiation of another. And this aggressive posture is targeting a nation that is already in deep, deep domestic distress. Currently, Cuba's economy is struggling immensely. Many of its citizens are dealing with devastating shortages, going without electricity, and even struggling to get basic food supplies. So this threat of a U.S. takeover is landing right on a population that is already facing a daily crisis just for basic survival. But despite those profound domestic struggles and the lack of basic resources, the Cuban leadership is absolutely not backing down. Cuba's president fired back defiantly at the U.S. threat with this unyielding statement: "No aggressor, no matter how powerful, will find surrender in Cuba." So, as we step back and look at the expanding ripple effect of all these actions, from the volatile rhetoric and naval blockades in the Middle East, to pulling troops out of Europe, to bypassing domestic laws back home, and now this brand new threatened front in Cuba, we really have to look at the big picture. We've seen exactly how fast executive decisions can cascade across the globe. So I leave you with this to ponder. With rapidly shifting fronts, wildly contradicting statements, and billions of dollars moving under emergency powers, what is the ultimate cohesive strategy driving this foreign policy? Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer of the source material, and definitely keep questioning what you see.